Looks like we got a couple more people coming in right now. Well, perfect. We are at 2 minutes after, and we're going to go ahead and get things rolling. Let me kick things off officially and say welcome to Gulfstream Legal's Poolside Chat number 5: How to Simplify Handling Short Message Format Data in eDiscovery. I'm Ari Mandel, VP of Discovery for Gulfstream Legal, and today I want to welcome both my guest and my good friend Andreas Mueller from Downstream, who's kind enough to join me in this conversation. You're going to get to hear from him in 2 seconds, but let me say, Andreas and I have known each other for a long time, and
Yes.
he's. I reminded him just recently how long that was, which I don't think he's happy with me for right now.
Makes me feel old, Ari. Makes me feel old.
You're not, nowhere close to old, my friend. But let me also say before we get into our first topic and start chatting, if you have any questions or comments at any time, please feel free to write into the chat window. If it's something that we can answer right away, we definitely will. But most of our questions will be answered at the very end. Now, with that being said, I'm going to turn around. We're going to dive right into this conversation. So, short message format data and eDiscovery. Why are we talking about this today? And I'm sure everybody that's on this call has had one of these, over the past decade. A decade ago, we would have just been talking predominantly about cell phones. And even then, they were challenged to collect. And that challenge has become easier and easier to do. But as the collection method, and I'm sure Andreas I'm going to give him an opportunity to talk about that in a second here as well. As that has become easier, what has not really evolved in many cases is what do you do after you collect these documents? So I can speak for the clients we work with on a regular basis. We got the process down pretty well for how to collect, whether we collect in person or we collect remotely. And I can speak, again, for my good friend Andreas and his company Downstream, who has helped revolutionize how to collect mobile phones remotely as well. We've got that process down as well, but we still don't have that process after that. So it's been a big challenge. So, Andreas, why don't you tell myself and some of our guests that are listening in, what are you guys doing and what are you doing professionally to help make, after, post collection review of this data easier and easier?
Certainly. So, hi, nice to meet everyone. Some of the difficulties that we encountered 3 to 4 years ago before Downstream was founded was how do you actually collect these mobile devices, right? Custodians sometimes live in the mountains or they're somewhere else where they don't have access to any type of reliable internet. iPhones came up or Apple came up with the iCloud based type of backups. And then there was a restriction of 5 GB. And just as a quick nugget, I recently collected the largest iPhone in my career thus far. And it's almost a quarter of a century. Sounds a little bit better than 25 years. But the custodian had 742 GB of data on her mobile device, and I was just baffled. Needless to say, the collection took 24 hours. But remote mobile device collections are the big thing now, and really the demand. And we utilize a kit that we coined Remote Stream. It's in essence a tiny computer that gets shipped out to the custodians or even to a company. We use LTE on board. Think of Verizon, AT&T, Sprint. To remotely connect to that mini laptop, and literally all the custodian does is plugs in their phone and we take it from there. So the collection piece is easy. The challenge was back in the day, if you remember, even doing in-person collections, custodians that utilize their mobile device for personal purposes, there's a lot of personal stuff on there, financial data, health data, family pictures. And we had a lot of pushback 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, going in and saying, well, I have to grab your entire phone. I'm going to walk away with it. The additional item, I guess, that separates modern collection technologies that we came up with is we have the ability to filter on site. So we're only walking away with messages between Ari and Andreas for 2020. And everything works transparently, so the custodian can see exactly what we're walking away with. If we ever have to go back to the well, we can even encrypt the complete phone image that we have, and the custodian gets to pick the password. So 3 months later, if we have to go get messages between Ari and Andreas for 2019, we jump on a 5-minute screen share with the custodian. They put in a password that only they know. Now we're exporting another subset, which is messages between you and I for 2019. So that really is revolutionizing, if you want to call it that, but just listening to our custodians and their worries about walking away with everything but the kitchen sink.
Well, that speaks volumes right there. And speaking from experience, having participated in some of those collections with you recently, I will say I've assisted some of those custodians in some of those remote locations while you've run those collections, and it makes things a lot easier. So now that we've kind of talked a little bit about what we've done to make life easier for collecting, what about post collection? What sort of workflows and what sort of tools are you seeing coming in, and including your own that really help with the process?
Sure. No, that's another valid point. The collection piece, we know that's been settled and we're doing really, really well with that. The review piece has been a real challenge. Let me preface this with about 80% of our projects have a mobile device component. Out of those 80%, roughly 20% have data that's needed for litigation or for a matter that's outside of your chat messages. And what folks keep forgetting is we have a phone, yes, we have iMessage on there if it's an iPhone, but there's also pictures, videos, voicemails, call logs. And the challenge that we had encountered up until recently, until we solved that issue, was how do we look at all of the other data that comes from a mobile device that's important? Now, not naming names, but most review platforms merely support chat messages. The challenge there was that they can't handle conversations. If you look at our chat on our iPhones, we have like 10,000 messages between the two of us. Now, these platforms, they don't want to give you a single document in your review platform of choice with 10,000 messages, plus the attachments. So the overall consensus was, let's break them up into 24-hour chunks by conversation. Well, that's good. And you can keyword search and you see a 24-hour period for a chat with dates and times next to it. But now when we're keyword searching, and let's say the keyword hits on the very first chat on the following day, now you have to go a document back to see the 3 or 4 chats before it. How do you tag individual chats? Well, you don't want the contextual ones. You can't really do that unless you go and you redact prior to production time. So that's one of the challenges, obviously. And last but not least, here also, one of the cases that we had was on New Year's Eve a couple of years ago. A teenager had self-devised an explosive device, i.e. a firecracker, and unfortunately blew half of his arm off when it misfired and exploded. Here we had 15 mobile devices, and the challenge was that we needed to find any messages, videos, posts, Facebook, pictures from the 2 hours prior to the bad explosion to the 2 hours after from these 15 custodians. Well, your problem is if you're looking at it in your review platform of choice, A, you're only going to find chats and nothing else. And B, how do you truly search for a particular date and time frame? For example, show me all of the messages and posts and files between 10 p.m. the night before and 2 a.m. the next day after. And you have tens of thousands of these, call them PDFs or RSMFs in case of relativity, all of these documents sitting inside of there. So we do take, in this case, relativity, take RSMFs and we enhance them. Custom threading for Android-based messages, a date and timestamp for every single message that's part of one 24-hour period document, just to help up this process. But we knew we were only going to be halfway there because we can do a whole lot better.
Oh, awesome. So we've talked a lot about, predominantly sources of data coming from mobile devices, but, data from mobile devices isn't the only thing that you started to help solve and create solutions for as well, as we both know. I mean, we're all starting to see, let's call it short message format, chats, conversations, whatever we want to call them, coming from sources like Microsoft Teams, Slack, and everybody started to hear all the other buzzwords. Bloomberg Chat. I mean, we used to talk about Bloomberg emails, but what about Bloomberg Chat, and how do we deal with all those various sources? So What have you started to do to both as a workflow, but also, as a way to save time and money dealing with, these various sources that now almost every corporation has something in-house?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So most of the time when we're talking about independent messaging applications, it's Slack. That just is the number one corporate messaging platform that's out there. The good and the bad is the good is it all sits in the cloud, which means we can access it from anywhere in the world. The bad is when it comes to collection time, you're almost yelling into an empty room and saying, come on out, and then whatever comes out, comes out. So Slack, for example, one of the interesting parts is Slack offers 4 different subscription levels. The first 2 ones, the cheaper ones, don't give you the ability to export all of the chats out. They also don't give you the ability to go to those private or secret chats, but there might be responsive messages in there. The next 2 versions 3 and 4, which are the higher paid, more corporate plans, like one of them is called Business Plus. Here you can do an export. Here's the problem. You have to export everything but the kitchen sink. So not just your group chats for a finance team, HR team. You have to export all of those, including the private chats. And from every other user, you can't just go in and say, hey, I only want these 5 channels. So the collection piece is easy. We can download all of that. And the nice thing is we developed applications that allow us to say, show me every single channel that's there. Provide that to our clients and then say to them, cherry pick what you want from there. Or we can run search terms against the data that we download. So we solve that part. But the second part is a little bit of mobile device there too, attachments, files that you send. When you do an export from Slack, all you get is text, and they're in a weird JSON formats that fortunately we can handle. But the attachments sit in the cloud. So you have to go and download the attachments. Funny enough, on a mobile device, you encounter the same thing. If you don't have a workflow in place that goes to all of your Facebook Messenger messages coming from a phone or even from a Facebook takeout, you have to identify all of those still in the cloud sitting attachments because they're not going to be sitting on your phone, and then pull them down and attach them to your record as a child document and then get that as a package delivery for relativity. Teams is a little bit different. Teams generally, the collection process here is not from a local computer either. You go to the Office 365 tenant, you run searches using the eDiscovery console, and then you export those items out. Difficulty here is the same as with Google or Google Vault. You have attachments still sitting in the cloud that don't get exported out. So again, challenge, identify attachments. Solution, identify them, automatically download them, make them child documents. But those are generally what you encounter. And those should also be a quality points when you're evaluating processes and vendors and along those lines. Do they get that information? Are they even aware of them? Because most of them just click a button, say export, and say, well, here it is. Have a good day. Only to find out there's half the stuff missing.
Nobody likes to find out, and afterwards that they don't have all the documents that they need to deal with. It's like the old days when we tried to search an email server, and all we were searching really is the emails and not the attachments. Same problem, different platform. Well, so I heard you mention, and I know I've seen a preview of this, but so I'm excited for everybody else to see this. You talked about what you can do post-collection, what you can do now to organize this data, but the key word there that I'm looking for is you can also present this to our client, whether it's in an ECA or a review type thing, pre-relativity or whatever tool they're going to use to conduct their final relevancy review. But our clients can now log into a system and see some of this information, not just ask you as the expert or ask our project management team to go in and run searches and give them reports. They can physically see this information and get it in a more logical fashion. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm very excited to show this, is to preview that tool for our guests here on the webinar.
No worries, absolutely delighted. I'm going to share my screen in just a second. One thing to remember is, so we went out and created MobileStream. And MobileStream is call it early case assessment or analysis platform specifically for data coming from mobile devices. And it's not that we can't load, again, not name dropping, but it's not that we cannot load mobile device data into your platform of choice, Relativity, Reveal, or something else. The problem is that these platforms are all older code, and their legacy platforms, and they're just building code on top of it, not really supporting what's there. MobileStream itself was built purely in the cloud from the ground up with all security bells and whistles to support mobile device data. That is the purpose of MobileStream. And what we see here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. We make this available to our clients. Our clients in turn can even make this available to in-house counsel or somebody from legal or somebody from HR. This is a demo platform. That's why you see sort of like these anonymous names. But in essence, as a client admin, they go in, they have a quick view, they can see exactly all the projects that they have. They can even see the billing, what's it going to be at the end of the month, the activity month to date, what was done, global statistics across all of the cases, latest activity down here, the ticker across everything. General reviewers or users go in and they have direct project access so that they don't get the admin screen. I'm just going to jump to one of the projects here. In this case, it's project A. You can see the total number of items coming from the mobile device, total size, how many users are assigned to this. Generally, again, this is not meant to be a full review platform like Relativity. The purpose here is to take those 15 phones I talked about from the kid that blew his hand off on New Year's. Take those 15 phones, stuff them in there really quick, sift through what it is that you actually need and want to provide to the case team, and then get it over into your Relativity, your Reveal, your Nuix, whatever other platform of choice, Lumix. That's the purpose of this. So if you have more than a handful of users, I highly doubt it. If you're in here longer than 30 days, I highly doubt it as well. One of the other things I also mentioned before is the going back to the well. We allow clients to archive those within minutes just by clicking one button. And if 3 months down the road, you have to get additional data out, you just click a button, it unarchives it, and everything happens up in Azure, taking advantage of everything that Azure provides from a security perspective, but also AI and things like that. But here's the project view itself. Same type of quick statistics, your monthly activity, the data types that is broken out, including even email if we're able to grab email from the mobile devices. Down here, we can see data sources, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data sources, but we only have values or statistics for 2 of those. Well, the reason for that is we collected 6 phones, but so far we've only loaded 2 phones in. That's why you see those statistics. Same thing here with the activity on the side. There's your ticker. Really, the key differences here, though, are in the review, the search, and also the actor management or entity management. As everyone knows, litigation revolves around a specific set of people, 10, 25. What we did was we said, we are going to go in, take the address books from every single device that we're loading into here, and we're going to take work off the attorney's shoulders, find the 15 entries in 15 different address books for Ari, for example, collapse those to a single entry and allow you to take that entry and create an entity, your important person. And that's what we did here, right? We took like Michelle and Casey, all the different phone numbers, email addresses, Snapchat names, Twitter names, and collapsed all of them into single contacts that you can even go in and search. You can then create an entity from this contact. And the reason why we're creating entity and allow you to put a picture here, I didn't use my face, obviously, is we even have facial recognition enabled. So at the switch of a button, the admin can say, I want to enable facial recognition for my project, and it'll recognize your people across all photos and videos for quick finding. Becomes important if you want to avoid having to go through 40,000 pictures trying to find a picture where Ari's face appears. Not picking you, Ari. But that's sort of like the entities. Everything evolves around those entities. If we go down, the next portion, really the important part is to review. You will see it's a whole different review experience. We have over 500 individual chats or message chats loaded into here. And you can see they're all just loaded up. There's 539 of them. On the left here, really what's different, we have quick selectors, data sources that you want to look at, entities, participants, any type of tags you have assigned. So those are your quick filters. And you also see all of the emojis that are in your database across all of the messages. So here's your emojis. You can actually see folks that are using emojis to convey messages. I'm going to spare you some of the examples, but what you should do is if you have kids at home, just ask them to see their phone for a second, and you will see, especially the youth nowadays, and Gen X, Y, and Z, whatever you want to call them, emojis is the new way on how people converse. Now, the main review portion, in this case, I picked out chats because it's easy. Up here, you can choose the date filter. You can run a search up here if you would like to. Any type of conversations where Tyler was part of. So you can do that, and it'll refresh once you hit search to the conversation that Tyler was part of. Over here, you can see messages. Between Joe and Michelle, we have 127 messages in this one conversation thread and 9 attachments. To give you a size perspective, this conversation here alone has 10,853 individual messages and attachments. And they just loaded up in, what, 3 seconds? So this is husband and wife. Here's a word cloud. The bigger the word and the thicker it is, the more they talked about those particular words. You have an emoji cloud for this one particular conversation. What are the top emojis that they send to each other? Well, it's husband and wife, and they love each other a lot, right? But this is important if you have corporate cases, potential sexual harassment. You can even use this for your kids. Scary thought, but one of my business partners said, I could use this for my grandkids, so I know what they're talking about. So she was kind of funny about that. But as we're going through, I'm going to pick a smaller one real quick. One of the neat things is here's 1,151 messages, 153 attachments. As you're scrolling through, everything here is searchable. Words, emojis, you can pop them into the search. You can date filter this. But as you scroll down, anything that's video, audio, and in some cases, if we can go in and render the web page, it'll even show the web page. So we have an example right here. Here's a picture. You can click on the picture to see it big. If there's geolocation associated, you can see where the picture was taken. The same thing for videos. If you want to tag particular messages, you can go in here and say, hey, these messages are important to me, right? These 4, I need to bring those to the case team, or you can bulk tag if you want to tag them in something you're used to from regular review applications. A couple of the other different things you can do, obviously run keyword searches up in here. That's an easy one. If you don't like the bubbles, you can go in here and say, I want to look at this in a table format. So if you prefer Excel spreadsheets, there's your table format. Works exactly the same. Searching, date filters are the same. You can even look at attachments that way. That's sort of like the review side of things just for messages. An additional item I wanted to point out is if we go back, and let's pick a conversation with multiple folks. Here's 3 participants. Their phone numbers, email addresses, any other type of information associated with the contact. And mind you, we do all of that work programmatically on the back end. You can see right here. But you can look at, if we're looking at this from the bubble version, you can look at a conversation from anyone's perspective. So that's actually pretty neat, looking at Sherry, Michelle, or Steve. Some of the other things, because we're running short on time soon, is from an analysis perspective, we have a communication analyzer. Same items here. We can see everything at a heat map. You can click on it. You can see how often people talk. You can restrict this by date. You can restrict by keyword searches. So just to give you a little taste, happy to do a demo at some other point for someone more in depth. And also our searches. We started taking searching and completely putting it upside down. Some of the things that we love is use the data set that you have to find your keywords. So smarter keyword searching. If we take the word dog, from a semantic or conceptual perspective, it goes and suggests terms from the actual live data set that came in. You can even say, hey, I want to dog and anything cat related. Somebody has one of both animals. So you can go in here, and mind you, they're conceptually or part of semantic, meaning the meaning of a word. You update this, and you're sort of like building, you're going to be building your query inside of here. Once you have your whole query together, you can preview, or you can run the search, or even execute the search. But it's in essence a different way on how we're displaying the data. This is live as of today. And to just sum it up with one additional item, what we're also coming out in the future is a lot of other things that are generally not available in the review platform or analysis platform, but there's more on that to come. Twitter, LinkedIn will have all of those updates and screenshots.
Well, perfect. That was a great demo, and you showed many of the key features that I love. Do have a question while we do have a moment. We got asked, can this be used as an add-on with other review tools, or is this completely separate all by itself?
That's a great question. So this is separate by itself. Data gets loaded directly from the mobile devices up into the cloud. Once you pick your filtered data sets, right now we can export it and push it into Relativity as like RSMF, so we can push it into other platforms with a DAT file linked to native files. What we're working on right now, which should be done by the end of August, is a direct connector. So you can press a button connected to the workspace, and it'll automatically server-to-server transfer into a Relativity workspace, regardless of who the service provider is, by the way. So this can be pushed into any review platform directly. Probably by end of August, we'll have that completed.
Perfect. And to answer that question also in a different way, so if depending upon, I'm going to use Relativity as an example. If you have an existing Relativity platform, your provider can create you a tab within that automatically links to this tool as well. So if you don't want to have people remember multiple different logins and URLs and all that wonderful fun stuff, there is ways to, let's call it integrate it directly into your existing platforms while accessing Stream on its original site. Well,
Ari, one last thing before I forget. The main message behind here is normally when you go to a forensic service provider to do this filtering for you, they're going to be doing this in a black box. So the purpose of Stream really is to put you as the client into the hot seat or the driver's seat, so you can go play with the data yourself, sift through it, because you all are the subject matter experts, right? Even opening up to your corporate client, they're your SMEs. They're the ones who know the data the most. Putting this into their hands for a couple of days so they can help you sift through everything is just priceless. And this way, I don't do it in my lab behind closed doors and say, well, here's what I found, but you don't even know what else is out there.
And that's a great example, because I can't count how many times I know I've worked on a case with you where a client is asking for one search and then they ask for it to be revised and revised. If they had direct access to be able to run those searches, not only would they have gotten instant results, but they would have been able to play with the data in a more dynamic fashion.
Right. Plus, think about it. You can't really run. So we use Cellbrite and Oxygen, which are the number 1, 2 mobile device mobile device forensic softwares. You cannot do proper keyword searching in there. That's the other problem. So if you're wanting to do keyword searches, you're literally going to have to take the entire phone, kit and caboodle, push it into Relativity, pay for it, obviously, and then do your searches inside of Relativity. And then you have the same issues that we talked about in the beginning.
Well, perfect. Well, everybody, we're coming up on time. Feel free to enter any other questions that you have, and we'll be glad to follow up. First, let me say, Andreas, thank you so much for joining me today. It's an honor as always to talk to you. Definitely a subject matter expert, more than my opinion in this arena. So, and all my guests, thank you so much for joining us today. We will post this up on our YouTube channel, and please, if anybody has any questions, feel free to follow up. And as kind of a shameless plug, let me ask and invite everybody to come join me in a month for Gulfstream Legal's Poolside Chat number 6. Topic to be announced here in a couple of days, but it's another fun one. So Andreas, again, thank you so much for joining me. And I know your time is valuable, and as always, I appreciate you and your knowledge.
Absolutely. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.